Jerry and Charlie riding through the airwaves, bringing you the heat. Come on, pull your muffins. Now get up out your seat. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. Now you're listening to Chase Station.
Today is Monday, April 7th. The Mets are 6-3 in their first 9 games. They just swept the Toronto Blue Jays to open up their season series at Citi Field. The vibes are high. The bullpen is nasty, and the Stars haven't even really gotten going yet. So there's a lot of April optimism surrounding the blue and orange. And me and my good friend Jerry Blevins are here to tell you all about it. I am Jack, aka Jolly. I'm feeling very jolly about our New York Mets. After kind of a dreary opening series, the last 6 games have been a lot of fun. Jerry, how you doing?
I'm lovely. So honored to be considered a dear friend.
Oh,
I feel so honored.
Of course.
Yeah, man. The team looks good, and they're not even playing great, but they're winning, and they have a winning formula, and they look like a winning team, if that makes sense. They're not just winning 10 runs or huge home runs or dominant performances. They just look like a complete ball club for the most part, and they're doing what they need to do, and this is a good thing. The bullpen has been incredible, and that's something that they prioritized. And outside of that, it just looks like a good baseball team, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, these are some of the wins that only really good teams can pull out. When your offense looks dead or you get 4 innings out of your starting pitcher, you find ways to win these games. And, I mean, you can say these are April baseball games. They don't feel as significant, but one example I always go back to is last year when we had that crazy game in Atlanta where it was Jorge Lopez got the save, Tyrone Taylor made that catch at the wall, Nimmo hit a bunch of home runs. That game felt really fun, but it also felt like, it's the second week of April, whatever. That was a game that ended up getting the Mets into the playoffs because it got them the tiebreaker over the Atlanta Braves. It got them a higher seed. So when you think back and, you're enjoying these games but trying not to, zoom out too much, I think feel free, because the NL East, as we're going to talk about, will be a dogfight all season long, and every win feels like it matters big time. So to not lose a series against the Miami Marlins is big. To sweep the Blue Jays instead of going 2-1 is big. These things will add up. There's a ton to talk about. I guess what section of the team, what specific player, what series, what game, where do you want to start?
I think we should start, from kind of the jump. First initial, let's start in Houston then.
Well, Jerry, I'd love to do that, but I kind of have to tell you about something first, if that's okay.
Oh, please do. Inform me.
Well, it's a little-known company. I'm sure you've never heard of them before. They're called Field of Dreams Whiskey, Jerry. And I just bought 2 bottles for myself. They're shipping to my home later this week. I can't wait. It's whiskey from the most famous cornfield in the world, brought to you and made by former major leaguers, including Mets legend, as it says on my copy, Jerry Blevins. There's 2 whiskeys currently available. Field of Dreams Small Batch Bourbon, that's the one I just bought 2 of, and the Field of Dreams Player Series Bourbon. It's available in stores throughout 10 states, but you can get your bottle delivered right to your door at drinkfieldofdreams.com/Shay. The link in our description, the link that we've been promoting throughout all our profile and projection and preview episodes in March, which if you listen to those, thank you very much. We really appreciate the support there. This is, of course, a company that means a lot to both of us. Obviously, Jerry spends a lot of time working on this throughout the season, in addition to his 5 other careers that he somehow manages at the same time. So if you want to support the show and support Jerry Blevins, highly recommend clicking the link down below. These products make for a fantastic gift, or a gift for yourself if you're a bourbon and whiskey enjoyer. If you like yourself a good old-fashioned after a long day's hard work, there's no better bourbon or whiskey available than Field of Dreams. I highly recommend. And Jerry, you've got a little update for us, right?
Yeah, so since opening day, we launched our 2025 Player Series bourbon. So we have 2 offerings. The small batch, which you get a fun, Hall of Fame player or Hall of Fame story cap. It's really fun, like opening a pack of cards. The other side of it, our higher end bourbon, is our Player Series. And we release 1 for every major league player that has ever worn a uniform. So this year, there's 23,370, and they're all individually numbered. So on the back, you're going to get a player's number, or a debut number, and that it's linked to a certain player. Like mine is 19,230. So I was the 19,230th player. So if you get that number, that's my bottle for this year. There's only one of each, hand numbered, obviously. There's Shohei, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, all these like stars are out there. So
Last year, my dad got Barry Bonds just by happenstance. Fun
that's
fact.
isn't that
Yeah, I
amazing?
think we
Barry
chatted about
Bonds'
that.
number. Yeah. So there's one out there. So and Father's Day is, coming down the road a little bit. A legitimately amazing gift
Get
for
that gift done
Father's
early.
Day.
Don't
Get it out of the
sweat
way
it.
early.
Get it
But
done.
you can go to drinkfieldofdreams.com/Shay and then order everything from there. We'll ship it to you. Very exciting.
Hell
Thank
yes.
you.
So shout out Field of Dreams. Thank you, the people. And while you're here, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, all that good stuff. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk regular season Mets baseball for the first time in 2025.
Drink responsibly
baby.
too. Sorry.
Oh yeah, drink responsibly. I mean, you guys are smart. You all know that.
I know, but I feel necessary to say it.
I'll cut that in. Don't worry. Okay,
Especially
so
you.
we have 9 games to go through. I don't think we need to go through the nitty gritty of all of it, but I do agree it'll be helpful, I think, for us storytelling wise, to start from the beginning, which was that opening series in Houston against the Astros. Honestly, a week or so removed from it, a week and change, not a lot of it stands out still. It felt weird to start the season there. It felt weird to use the 3 starting pitchers that we did use, which were Clay Holmes, Tyler McGill, and Griffin Canning. Not really the 1, 2, 3 we drew up in our brains. But a couple moments stand out significantly that last out in game 1. Juan Soto comes up in a similar situation to the same he did last year with the Yankees against Josh Hader, a guy he's owned many times throughout his career, strikes out on the slider, and that kind of felt like the image that I associate with that whole series. The Mets went down 2-1 in 3 games. They scored just 5 runs in those 3 games, so they come away a series loser. They've played much better baseball since then, but I guess the biggest thing that stood out for me, not only in that series, but in the series that have followed, is the bullpen looks very impressive so far against some decent offenses early in the season.
Yeah, that was the thing. I mean, the Mets offense started off a little slow. They faced some really good pitching in Houston. But there were, the bullpen looks amazing. They picked up, early and often. They knew that they were going to be needed, especially with the starting pitchers that you were talking about. They're not going to push these guys for the most part. And they came up big. And then you talked about the Juan Soto strikeout to end the game. The at bat that stuck out to me over the whole series, and this is basically I wanted to bring it up, was Luis Angel Acuna's walk. It was this amazing battle where, he wasn't unfazed. Like he had a little bit of a defensive hiccup, but had some good plays. But this is a true test of a young kid to come up, doesn't get overmatched. He actually fouled off. Like he just was an awesome at bat that really stuck out to me. That when the lights are the brightest, this kid is at his best. So I thought that was the key takeaway for me there.
I'm glad you brought that up because I actually did completely forget about that. It was a 12-pitch battle against Josh Hader. There was a runner on first, runners on first and second, nobody out. So paving the way for a big-time rally. He fell down 0-2, worked the count 12 pitches, a lot of foul balls on strikes, but still like the best at bat of his career. Let's say that pretty much outright. We've only seen about 30 odd plate appearances from Luis Angel Acuna, whatever the number is. Yeah. This felt like the best at bat of his career. And I think it's good that we're bringing it up now, 8 games removed from it, because we'll expand on this topic, but the depth of the Mets lineup has really not performed. Anyone that's basically below the 4 spot in the lineup is struggling mightily, and that does include Luis Angel Acuna, who's had a tough go through his first 15 plate appearances. But this was a highlight that you can kind of latch onto and say, okay, there's something to build upon here. And we could be viewing a path where he's going to get more playing time than maybe we anticipated because of the struggles of others. Who knows when Jeff McNeil is coming back? We're going to need these guys to perform because the Mets are 6-3 without a great offense right now, but you can only go so far when you're scoring 2-3 runs per game. They're going to need key contributions like that walk from the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah, that was just, again, it's so early. You can't really talk about major things or impacts, but these are the kinds of moments that you look for, whether it's a bullpen guy coming up in a situation where he doesn't perform well or he looks great. But for me, that was an indicator of substance, what you got, the grit inside of you, and that was a huge point for me to see in a moment like that early in the season for him to work a walk, man. Everybody wants to get the hit, but it's not easy to stay within yourself and understand that you could pass the baton to the guy behind you by taking a walk and putting your team in a chance to win. So we can move on past Houston. I think that's time, but that was one of the major things that stood out to me there.
I mean, the Mets didn't let that series loss linger for very long. They had a 3-game set with the Marlins. Game 1, they came out hot, put up 10 runs. Every starting position player got a hit in that game. But it was Pete Alonso's first homer of the year, that grand slam to dead central. I think Pete really just likes hitting in his home state. There's something about him in Marlins Park, Lone Depot, whatever it's called, that just makes him appear more comfortable. But Pete has certainly been the story of the offense early in this season, which is a very welcome sign because you can already point to a couple of signature big-time Pete home runs, 9 games into the season, which I feel like you couldn't really do 3 months into last season. So he just looks like his approach has been completely refined. It looks like that weight is off his shoulders early in the season. He has a contract. He has an next year option. It's not really a true situation like last year where it's a true contract year. And so far, he's shining that Miami series. 3 homers, 11 RBIs, more walks than strikeouts, hitting near 300. Pete Alonso looks absolutely dialed in so far.
Yeah, that was the story for me too. I mean, again, for over these first 9 games, Juan Soto's doing his thing. He's not actually even locked in, but he's getting on base every single day. Lindor's kind of coming along. Viento's struggling. Looks like he might get it. Beatty looks really tough at the plate. But the one bright spot, and this is huge. This is Pete Alonso, who can carry an offense when he's locked in. And not just the Miami home run, the grand slam that got, kind of him going. It was the home run at home where it was a fastball well off the plate or a changeup even off the plate. And he just went out way off the plate and flicked it, you know, off to right center field, like right field. That's when Pete's at his best. He's capable of going the other way with power. And to me, that was the biggest sign that things are going all right because he can carry your offense through a tough time. He's got that capability, and I love what I've seen from him so far.
I mean, we've seen him do that exact thing, throughout the years. It just hasn't happened in a little bit. I feel like it hasn't happened really since, 22, where for a long stretch, Pete Alonso was the best hitter in the lineup, especially early in that season. But he hasn't pulled a home run yet. He's got 3 home runs, 2 to center, 1 to right field, which I find pretty interesting and pretty cool, for optimism going forward for Pete. He is probably the biggest reason why we finished our road trip 3-3. I mean, the Mets offense looked especially dead in the series finale of that Miami set. They got, pretty much shut down by Sandy Alcantara in the bullpen in game 2. And then game 3, it was not going well. They were down 3-1 late. Pete worked, in my opinion, his best at-bat of the season so far against Calvin Faucher.
I want to say Faucher, but I could be wrong.
I like Faucher better. And I feel like they had JT Chagua a couple of years ago. That's like kind of Miami's thing. I don't know. But a 2-out scenario, the Mets, it was kind of just, if it doesn't happen here, it's not going to happen, that type of feeling. And Pete worked a great 9-pitch at bat, got the 2-2 fastball where he wanted it, and just absolutely crushed that pitch to tie the game. The Mets made us sweat it out, but I like our odds on a lot of scenarios of tie games late or 1-run games late because of how well this bullpen has performed. So it's good that Pete has had his best at-bats in a while early in the season because it's hard to imagine what this team's record might be without Pete coming up with 11 RBIs in 9 games. It's hard to see them being a 6-3 team.
It's true, but this is what a star-studded lineup can do. Over the next 9 games, you're like, hey, where would they be without Vientos getting hot? Or, where would they be without, Francisco Lindor locking it in and carrying it? This is what great teams do. They pick each other up. Even when it's not going great, more than one guy contributes. But again, if it's tied after 5 innings, I like the way this Mets team is set up because the bullpen is deep and they've been performing. Obviously, I don't expect perfection from guys like Max Kranick, who's been perfect But they have the ability to do that. Every guy in that bullpen is a quality arm, and I love seeing it.
Yeah, and you really saw that in this past series at home. The Mets came back to Citi Field. It was a rainy and cold weekend, yet they set all sorts of attendance records, which speaks volumes to
Love it. Congrats.
how much this, the reflection of this franchise has changed, how much it's become a landing spot, and how much the fans have responded to that. And then we'll dive into that in a little bit. As for the games themselves, you mentioned the Pete home run against Kevin Gausman. That set the tone for game one. Another nice start by Tyler McGill, who's had two good ones so far. We're being cautious. We're
He's your
saying
boy.
what's fact.
You can
He's
be
my
optimistic.
guy. I really like him with the kick change. This feels like his best pitch arsenal. We'll see. I've seen good Aprils from him before. It's beside the point. Him in the bullpen. Shout out the Toronto Blue Jays. Game two looked exactly like that game, and I want to say 2023, when Chris Bassett came back to town. I was there in person. It was rainy and cold. And he came in and he threw a complete game shutout against the Mets. At no point did the Mets offense look like they were close to figuring out what he was doing to them. And the exact same thing was happening in game two. He was in the seventh inning. I think he had 90 pitches. He allowed a 2-out single to Mark Vientos, who had not been swinging a good bat. 7, 8, 9 were coming up in the order. And I know you can psychoanalyze and look back with 2020 hindsight on all these moves. I have no earthly idea why John Schneider would take him out of the game knowing that his bullpen's been shaky through 7 games. I don't know why he would do it. There's an old adage of sometimes it helps for hitters to just see a new pitcher, regardless of if they're insanely talented or not. If they're getting stymied by someone, switching it up could be the worst thing you do. And that's what was the key for me in sparking this late rally from the Mets. They come back from a 2-0 deficit. Jesse Winker was the big story in there, getting the left-on-left 2-run triple late in the game to tie it. Lindor comes through late. But yeah, that I feel like that pitching change sealed a sweep for the Mets. I don't know why they did it. I feel bad for Chris Bassett, who probably should have got a win that day, but I'm very happy the Mets got the win instead.
I don't feel that bad for him. No, but you're right. It is one of those moments where you're like, oh, thank God. You're like, I don't care if you're bringing in Mariano Rivera. You're like, oh, at least we had no chance before. At least, he's nasty, but we got to, flip a coin now. Sometimes that's what it is. You mentioned Tyler McGill. I'm a believer. I'm a full-on believer.
Oh
in
boy,
what I've seen from
he's
him.
back in.
Not that I was ever out, but let me
defend your case. You got scrubbed from jury duty today.
On
Tyler
practice. McGill as a whole. So Tyler McGill, I'm a believer because sometimes it takes a while for you to understand the best version of yourself and how to incorporate that into being a big league pitcher on a day-to-day basis. It's all about getting to the big leagues, right? It's the hardest thing to do. Well, it's even harder to stay because you have to have success to stay, and then you have to figure out what works and what doesn't. This guy had no idea what type of pitcher he was or who he was going to be. He's evolving. And this iteration of it, whatever this 2025 version is, where he's got really good velo, he's throwing tons of strikes, he's shaping the ball better. He has an idea of where every pitch that he throws, he knows the shape of it. It's no guessing work anymore. And he's done a great job at adjusting to controlling the run game that used to plague guys like him because he was slower. He just looks like he figured out who he is. He's going to have ups and downs. It's really hard to pitch at this level, but this version of him can be successful for years to come. I really like what I've seen from him. I love the fact that he looks comfortable in his own skin. And from a manager standpoint, the best thing about him is his reliability. You know that you're going to get this version of him, and it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be a good start, but you know what you're going to get as far as shape, velocity, all that. He looks like a big leaguer, and he belongs here.
He's one of just 9 pitchers in baseball right now with over 10 innings and just 1 earned run or less allowed. He's one of only 2 guys to walk 2 batters or less in that group. He's been spectacular through his first 2 starts, the best Mets starting pitcher so far in those first 2 turns. And hey, you know what? There was a guy in the Mets last year who was in his 5th major league season at age 28, 29, who finally figured out who he was as a pitcher, and that was David Peterson. So maybe Tyler McGill's ready to undergo that same kind of year. It's early. We'll see. Maybe we'll look back on this in 2 weeks and laugh. Maybe we'll look back in 2 weeks and say, I think we undersold it. So you never really know. And, when the Mets are getting performances out of guys like Griffin Canning, who was traded for and released by the Braves, led the league in earned runs allowed last year, I'm willing to buy into anything. I'm just going to be cautious about it because I've gotten hurt before.
Tyler has hurt you before. But no,
Tyler
all I'm
has hurt
saying,
me.
and again, with Griffin Canning too, these guys look like they know what they're trying to do at all times. It doesn't always have success. Clay Holmes is a little bit of still in a testing out phase because he's just now becoming a starting pitcher again. But he's allowed to have some hiccups along the way. But as far as establishment, and I look for somebody that knows who they are when they're on that mound. They're not lost. Nobody in that rotation to me looks lost up there, and that's saying something. So I love what I've seen there.
Yeah, the pitching has been key to this 6-3 start for the Mets. Even, yesterday's game, David Peterson has to come out a little bit early with nausea. The bullpen allowed one base runner in the final 4 1/3 innings to seal up a 2-1 win in the finale. The pitching has been awesome, and that's kind of going to be the backbone, I think, of this team until the offense really starts to get going. So let me ask you, do you want to stay on the positive side of things and talk about more guys with, early great pitching performances, or should we focus on this lineup that, the bottom half of it has been kind of missing?
Let's just finish up the bullpen because I just want to finish on this positive note. Look, Diaz, he looks like last year's version, but better. He's throwing strikes, filling up the zone. I still think he's got room to grow, which is absurd to say. Brazoban, his problem with the Mets last year when he came over was throwing strikes. He looks great. Max Kranick, multiple inning guy, along with Brazoban, looks the part. Like, obviously, he's not going to be perfect, but I love his competitiveness coming in. Reed Garrett looks like peak Reed Garrett to me. What we saw. AJ Minter looks healthy, and he'll get better as the year goes, but I like what I've seen from him. Budo still kind of looks up and down a little bit at times with throwing strikes. Stanek looks like Stanek. Danny Young is the question mark. Danny Young still hasn't established who he is when he's on the mound. Falls behind a lot. He gets outs. He's got good stuff. But to me, he's the guy that now needs to establish himself to where when Carlos Mendoza calls upon him, he knows what version of him he's going to get. So he's the only guy outside of everybody has been impressive. It's not always going to be like that, but the bullpen, we talked about its depth going in. They look as deep as advertised.
Yeah, you mentioned before with the rotation how these guys are developing identities with how they go after hitters. I love the identities being built in roles for these bullpen guys. I love Reed Garrett as the fire extinguisher. He's constantly the guy that's getting used when there's runners on base to strand, and he's been fantastic in that role. A lot of his appearances have been early in games. He hasn't appeared past the 7th inning yet, but I think it's a perfect role for him because of what we learned last year. Reed Garrett's not going to be your late game high leverage guy, but you know what? If you need to get out of a spot in a 1-run game in the 5th, 6th, or 7th, there might not be any pitcher better in your bullpen or in baseball than Reed Garrett and his splitter for getting out of that. Edwin Diaz, it's funny, we've had a couple of crowded saves with base runners. He has no walks on the season. No walks allowed. He has 2 hit by pitches, but 6 strikeouts in 4 innings, and he's been very clean so far. But I think really the story has been Brazoban and Kranick, both of whom have thrown 7 innings so far. They've allowed combined 3 base runners, which is ridiculous. Brazoban is I didn't see it last year, I guess, but his build is terrifying. Like he's
a monster.
He's a giant
With
he's throwing
long arms as well.
like a 92 mile per hour sinker or change it, whatever the hell that pitch is. It's nuts. And he added a cutter now. He looks like a force to be reckoned with. And then on the other side, there's probably no easier guy to root for on the Mets right now than Max Kranick, the lifelong Mets fan who's off to a absolute dream start in this bullpen. And what makes me so excited about these guys is that they're bulk guys. These guys can give you 6, 7 outs on the mound without, breaking too much of a sweat. Kranick obviously used to be a starting pitcher and maybe could still be in that role if the things get dire with the rotation. But to have multiple guys that can get you 6 outs at any given moment means not only that Your starting pitching, it's okay if they only go 5 innings because you have these guys, but you also have this potentially every day because whenever one goes, the other one usually doesn't. I believe they haven't pitched in the same game yet this year. So that bodes, I think, incredibly well for the depth of this bullpen. And then, you mentioned the guy, AJ Minter, who we paid, decent money for and has looked good, except for a couple hiccups. He's got 7 strikeouts out of the 11 outs he's recorded so far. Like, the strikeout potential from last year is still here, but now these guys aren't really walking people. And that's what makes them, really scary because you're getting into these late game situations where they're just mowing down guys who are facing them, for the second time in a series or something like that. So yeah, you mentioned Danny Young. He's really the only blemish so far. And there's guys in AAA that I'm sure are ready to have their spot. Like Sean Reed Foley's down there. Dedniel Nunez is down there. This is a very deep part of the roster that I think we anticipated seeing flourish last year. Now we're actually seeing it come to fruition because I think Stearns, I guess, had a year to build up his depth and get guys in the system and get them in the lab, as people say.
Yep. They look good. We can get it. Of course, Daniel Nunez was a shock to me that he didn't make it. They
Injury
know better
stuff,
than I do.
guess.
He has
I don't
options.
know.
It is what it is. He'll be called upon at some point, but yeah, they have depth. They have further depth, which is great. You wanted to talk offense.
Yeah, I think we should, and then we can wrap up with the starters a little bit later. But it feels good to be 6-3. Let's say that. We're 9 games into the season. A week into April. No need for early overreactions, but I think that this is still a valuable sample. Guys are getting up towards 30 plate appearances, 40, what have you. I guess with the bottom of the lineup, with the guys that you've been seeing play every day, is there one guy that stands out to you as the most concerning considering their performance so far in the season?
There's 2. The one is Jose Siri, but this is the Jose Siri I expected to see. I don't expect him to bat under 100. That's not the expectation. He did bat under 200 last year. Is that right?
Yeah, and so far he's drawn a couple walks and he's had fun on the base paths. So
yeah, so this is the kind of version I expected to see of him. Obviously, I do expect him to find the barrel on occasion, but he is as advertised, so I'm not shocked by that. Brett Baty, after having an amazing spring, he's had some tough luck. I'm sure I'll let you read it, but Tacomo, you put up an interesting piece in our prep work for this.
About
sums
Brett
it up
Baty's
about his approach.
Yeah, this was actually James Schiano of the Met Step podcast, so shout out him. I'm glad he tweeted this because I've watched every game so far, obviously, and I was like, I feel like in every at bat, Brett Baty, I look away for 5 seconds and he's behind in the count. In 11 of his 21 plate appearances so far this season, he's started 0-2. There is no way to succeed as a big leaguer if you're in half your at bats. You're in a count where guys traditionally bat 100. Like it's really hard to have a spin cycle on this. And I know he struck a couple balls well. His bat speed is actually among the highest in the league right now. He's 95th percentile. But it's approach right now. It's all approach, and I don't know whether it was the transition from spring training warm weather to Citi Field cold weather. I don't know what it is, but the approach has been the killer for Brett Baty so far. I'm not as worried about Mark Vientos as I am about Brett Baty because I know what Mark Vientos is capable of. He got a couple knocks in this series. I thought that was big for him. With Baty, I know it's early. I'm having some trouble seeing the path unless we see a drastic change in just his general approach to at-bats.
And I can see that happening rather quickly. I mean, we're only 21 plate appearances in.
That's the saving grace of the situation. It's like things can turn,
Yeah, they can turn around. He had such a good spring training, and it was a polished approach, not just results. It was the way he looked at the plate. Make a tweak, and lucky for him, like Acuna's not smashing the cover off the ball to kind of take that job as an everyday player. They're still going to give him plenty of opportunity, in a platoon style to get his feet up under him. But like you said with Vientos, we've never seen a really high contributing offensive version of Brett Baty. It's time. So he needs to, it's not imminent, but he needs to start putting together better at bats and not just worry about results. it's still what type of hitter do you look like at the plate?
Yeah. I think it was funny one, I want to say Beatty's looked pretty good at second base, which I think is a nice surprise.
Agreed.
He's looked solid there. Like I have no issues with him in the field. I think with Vientos, the thought was like, just get a knock, like get that off your back. Like you'll be fine. I just need, bat to ball, barrel to ball. He had a couple nice swings in Miami that got caught. Like whatever. I think he'll be fine. And the confidence, he needs to get that back up. With Beatty, I'm the opposite. I need to see him get a walk. He hasn't had an at bat where he's reached 2-0, 3-0, or 3-1 once in 21 tries so far this season. It's just poor approach. Like I need to see him,
or just really good pitching for a while. You know what I mean? It's 21 plate appearances. I'm not panicked yet, but
Framber Valdez is in there. Like Sandy Alcantara's in there. Kevin Gausman's in there. I get that. Like he hasn't been the easiest slate of games, but like if we're doing the small sample game, how about Hayden Sanger? Couple starts at catcher, got a couple knocks. He's drawn a walk so far. Like this is a guy that was not supposed to sniff a roster spot and is now getting everyday playing time until Terrence is healthy again. Not to mention how good Terrence has played. Like these guys can contribute. These are major league ball players. So I think for Beatty, it's just, get on base a couple times one game, get the monkey off your back, and then we'll really see what he can be capable of. But outside of that, I mean, everyone's been kind of up and down. Like Nimmo's kind of rode the middle. I mean, Lindor had a tough opening series and he's been picking it up. I think the funniest thing of all is that, Juan Soto sits here with a 385 on base, 134 OPS plus through 9 games, a homer, 7 walks, all this good stuff. And it's never really felt like he's gotten going, if that makes sense.
It did. See, this is the beauty and why he commanded $800 million, because he's just turned 26. And this style of baseball doesn't really slump the way everybody else's does, because he gets on base, because he works a count, because he knows how to hit. I mean, he hasn't been great, and he's hitting 250 with a 385 on base percentage.
And he slept through that. It's crazy.
That's what I mean. He has 7 walks and 4 strikeouts, and he hasn't gotten going. That's why you pay a guy like that's subpar defensively, but this type of approach at the plate really doesn't slump. He's going to get on base, and we've barely scratched the surface. It's going to be a fun 15 years, I promise you that.
Yeah, he's reached base safely in all 9 games so far. He has a hit in 8 of the 9, which shocked me when I looked back at it. But yeah, Juan Soto has been terrific to start the season, and I just think that everyone is expecting more because it just feels like he's got a lot more to give.
Well, you nailed it.
Really
he has
fun.
hits in eight of the 9 games, but he only has 8 hits, meaning he has no multi-hit games yet. Like he's slumping at 250, 385, 438. He has an 822 OPS, and we're like, oh, all right.
What's wrong with him?
The beauty of his game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the spoils of being a Mets fan. It truly is. And I think game 2 of Toronto's series was my favorite one of the season so far. I don't know. I don't want to say that I was worried about Jesse Winker, but a part of me was like, well, like, I'm getting pretty attached to this guy as a clubhouse dude, as a friend on the team. But like, what if he doesn't perform? What if the playoffs were just kind of a nice 2-week stretch for him? He comes out, hair on fire, gets hits against righties and lefties, 3 extra base hits, and his pull up to third base, the slide, and then just look at the dugout like this, like what? Like what's up? Like what? Like what'd you guys expect? He's just so fucking easy to root for, man. I'm such a big Jesse Winker guy.
He makes it a joy to be a fan of a team. Like, there's characters on every team. This is a fun one to root for. He feels like a real Met. He'll make an impression regardless of how many years he's going to be here. There'll be people that he's their favorite Met of all time, and he's only been here less than a full season. So,
and you know what, man? I know it's tiny. The early yield on this DH tandem is pretty good. Marte had some really nice games on the road trip. He didn't make much of an appearance at home, but they've already combined for 5 extra base hits and less than 30 plate appearances. I really like the roles being carved out for those 2 guys. And it helps when you got, a terrific start from Pete Alonso, Juan Soto sleeping through this nice start, Lindor picking it up a little bit. One last guy I want to shout out, Luis Torrens.
Okay, love it.
Might be a dog, dude. He might be. He might like. Let's just zoom out for 1 second.
Go
So
for it.
Alvarez gets hurt. We know Torrens is going to start the season as catcher. Torrens is 29 years old. He used to be I want to say top 50, maybe top 40 prospect in baseball, and he got called up too early. He got called up at age 21 in 2017 for a bad Padres team. They threw him into the fire. He could not hit. He was not a great defensive catcher. He bounced around from 4 teams in a 4-year span, which is a lot of turnover for one guy. He landed here last year, had a really nice, 50-game sample, and is now getting the keys to a starting job again for the first time since he was called up too early at age 21, 8 years ago, whatever the number is now. There's a chance that Luis Torrens might be like a starting quality, really good catcher, which I think is exciting because obviously this is a big year for Alvarez when he gets healthy, but we still don't know, right, how much of a step he's going to take. Getting early production out of Torrens, seeing him gun down base runners on strike him out, throw him out double plays, seeing him come in hurt late in the game, working at bat and get a knock that helped the Mets win the game with Lindor's sacrifice fly that was set up after that. These are just like little things that I feel like add up really quick, and he's been really, really fun to watch. A really pleasant surprise early in the season.
Love that you picked him. Yeah, he could be a dude, man. He could have been overlooked, and like I said, it takes a while to figure out who you are, and it takes an opportunity. This might be an opportunity. He may not relinquish this job to Francisco Alvarez if he keeps.
I had that thought of like, what
it's
if
not
he's just,
it's not out of the question. Obviously, I feel very high. I think highly of Francisco Alvarez on both sides of the ball, but he hasn't done it really completely yet either. He's a baby, got plenty of
He's a
time. I still
baby.
think his ceiling's higher than Luis. Excuse me, sorry. I still think his ceiling is higher than Luis Torrens, but when you're a competitive ball club and your pitching staff is performing the way they are, you're hosing down runners and you're hitting 300. Hard to take that guy out of the rotation, if you will.
keep it up, man. Keep it up. It's been pretty fun to watch, especially with how bad the bottom of the lineup's been. It's been a saving grace to have him down there. So that's the roundup on the offense, unless we missed anyone, but I don't think we did.
Love it.
I do want to talk about the rotation a little bit. Early in the season, I don't know. I guess I'm not surprised, but part of me is like when I looked up the stats, I was shocked. This rotation has the best ERA of any rotation in baseball right now, 2.40. It kind of doesn't feel that way. Only one guy's completed 6 innings so far. That was Peterson's first start in Miami. They're striking out the world. They're also walking the world. They have the 3rd worst walk rate in baseball, 4th best strikeout rate. So it's kind of like the beginning of last year all over again. I'm a little wary of Clay Holmes. I'm a little wary. I don't know. It feels unfair. He's 2 starts into this new experiment. The results, as my lights go off: 9 1/3 innings, 3 earned runs, a 2.89 ERA. How about that WHIP though? 1.82 through 2 starts. I guess is there any level of concern early on with the Mets experiment projects? Like, do you think that they can last this long, burning both ends of the stick with using the bullpen so much and allowing starters to go, 4 and change, 5 innings max?
Yeah, I think that's what they can wholeheartedly do this. I'm not worried about Clay Holmes yet. It hasn't. I mean, he had a perfect spring just about, and it hasn't been like that. He's came out and he hasn't quite had the predictability of his stuff. He wasn't throwing strikes. His sinker was up in the zone, so he was getting away from it. But I expect him to settle in. Griffin Canning looks like he can give you 5 quality starts.
It's fun to watch. I'll say that.
In Houston, there was a big opportunity for them to pull him, and they let him go back out trying to earn that way.
That was when he faced Jordan the 3rd time, and then
Correct.
Jordan hit the double. That kind of ruined his outing. Yeah,
and it cost him the game. I like the fact that Carlos let him figure it out.
Carlos Mendoza's had a really good first 9 games. I'll say that.
I agree, but that could have been he cost him the game. Yanked that guy 3rd time through the order. Jordan has hit like 800 against him legitimately career.
Yes, yeah.
Why do that? But you never know. Next time in July, you might be in that same situation, and you don't know where you're going to go, might as well let him have a game in April. So Canning is, I like what I've seen so far. Clay Holmes, you're going to have plenty of leeway. This bullpen can pick you up. This offense can pick you up. There's going to be some days where his sinker is locked in, and no matter what else he's doing, he's going to get outs. I was worried about Senga, and he looked great.
It was nice to
That
see him get through 5 innings. That was good.
that was he was the most he still is the biggest question mark because he hasn't thrown a ton. He hasn't been great. Didn't look as dominant. I'm still keeping an eye on him, but what an encouraging sign for him to go five. You know what I mean? And to get a W, or he got a loss, but he looked worthy of a win. That kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
Then Tyler McGill, we talked about him already. He looks like the real deal. And then David Peterson has continued. He'd give up a couple of hits, a couple more walks than you would like, but he still looks like he knows how to compete out there. Give your team a chance to win. They'll figure out the rest.
Yeah, Peterson's really developed that element of like, hey, he's so much better with base runner. Like, I know he's always had the great pickoff move and all that stuff, but I just feel like he's so much more composed in traffic now compared to, 2 years ago. And with Holmes, I feel bad because in both of his starts, there was a ground ball that could have changed the entire perception of the outing. In Houston, it was the double play ball that Acuna messed up. That was his error that, made his at-bat later stand out to me of like, you
Correct.
shook off, 2 strikeouts and a key error in a one-run game. In Miami, it was the ball to Vientos that could have been a double play. Instead, Vientos came home with it and overthrew the ball and a run scored. So through 2 outings, he has 2 unearned runs, and that, led him to throw more pitches, meant he didn't get through the 5th inning, all this stuff. So I'm looking for that start where it all comes together. I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later. I think he's going to be in this Miami series where he's going to get another crack at them. But we'll see. Early results are, I guess, about what you'd expect. These guys aren't pitching very deep into games. It's early April. A lot of traffic on the base paths. But as long as you get 1 or 2 good performances out of the 5 that stand out, like your Tyler McGill outings or David Peterson, this rotation can last, I think, easily until Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas are ready to return. Unfortunately, Sean Manaea did have a setback with his oblique injury, so now I think the best case scenario is going to be late May, early June, which probably is going to be the latter, which is just tough, man. It's going to be tough to not watch Sean Manaea pitch until the summer.
Yeah, this is going to be a test because this was their biggest question mark going in, depth and top end talent of their rotation. And it became even more apparent when Montas went down and then Manaea went down. They're going to have some lumps. They're going to need these guys to perform at least the way they've been performing. So this is like a baseline of what they need. Shoot, every once in a while, get a seven inning performance and save some of those bullpen guys. They'll need it. So
It took a while to get one of those in April last year, so I'm hoping it's not the same this year. It felt like forever until we started getting that regularly. But you know what'll help? This frickin' bullpen that currently has the best bullpen ERA in baseball at 1.29, the best FIP, the best home run per 9 rate because it's 0 because they haven't allowed a home run yet, which is ridiculous. I don't know even how many innings have they thrown so far. I think like whatever. No home runs allowed yet. The 3rd best whip, 5th best walk rate. I mean, just across the board, this bullpen effort has been so important to the Mets being 6-3 at the end of 9 games. And they're going to have to keep it up because the depth in the bullpen is massive and the depth in the rotation is admittedly pretty thin. But through these first 9 games, the Mets are 2nd place in your NL East, 1 game behind those Phils who just won a series against the Dodgers. So quite a statement made there. Your Atlanta Braves are 1-8, Jerry. My pick to win the NL East division went 0-7 against the Dodgers and Pods, split a couple games with Miami at home, and that offense is not going. I mean, I know that they'll be fine. They're the Braves, but I saw a crazy stat that was no team that has ever started 0-7 has finished with a winning record, let alone made the playoffs in the last 40 years. Now, I do think that the Braves could be the team that break the mold, but still.
Yeah, I expect them to break that record of 500 at the bare minimum. Plus, they don't have their 2 best players in Spencer Strider and Acuna. Like those are their 2 best players that they're missing, and they're going to be missing for a while. Every one of their hitters is underperforming pretty much. they'll be fine. I'm not worried about them. Just like I'm not overhyping, the Mets start. It is what it is. We're 9 games in.
What do you mean? We're winning the World Series, Jerry.
I didn't not say that either. But can't go wild yet. They're still a very good baseball team.
Coming up next for them, 3-game series at home with the Philadelphia Phillies. So we'll see. That's a good test.
They're going to be what, 1-11?
If they lose that series bad, 1-11. That's going to be tough. I honestly prefer they get a couple wins there. Let's bring the Phillies down a peg.
You're already playing the game.
Exactly. I'm standings watch early in the season. And we'll bring them down a peg. We'll bring Mets fans up a peg because shout out you guys. I was not able to get to a game this weekend because of my insane adventure going to Chicago, driving there overnight for our event, which was wonderful, but I'm very tired and a little bit sick, if you can hear it in my voice. Despite cold, wet conditions at Citi Field this weekend, said Anthony DiComo, the Mets sold over 121,000 tickets, 29% higher than the first home series last year, 21% better than any 3-game series at any point last season. The Mets are the talk of the town, baby. That stadium was awesome. The Saturday game, which I keep referring to as my favorite, they did the pitch clock countdown, which I've wanted to get going as a fan for years, and it worked awesome against Nick Sandlin. You could tell him how rattled he got. You could see him looking at the clock to make sure they weren't, trying to mess with him. And that crowd was absolutely electric. All 3 days that they really were, and it's cool. It's very prideful as a fan to watch on the TV when you're not able to make it to a game, and you can hear the 10th man on the field, making that noise on your behalf.
I agree, man. Shout out to Mets fans, not just the amazing people that could make it out there, but the Mets fans as a whole. 121,771 for the opening series in crappy weather. Like this wasn't. Yeah, it was cold and wet and gross. Beautiful performance. It helps the team. It literally helps the team get through tough times. So they're the best. So I'm happy to see him show out on the national
Winker,
stage.
He said after the game, he said, we're going to need him. We're going to lean on these guys all season. And, think of where we were in 2022. Remember when they lost the Braves series at the end, and then we had a playoff series at home where we couldn't even sell at the ballpark? I mean, obviously, the 0-5 start last year when Gary said it was rock bottom certainly looked that way. There was like 100 people in the stands. It's cool to see how much things have changed, a year, 2 years out from those moments. So, moments that we covered and we, you felt a little, I don't want to say shame, but a guilt as a Mets fan when you'd look at the ballpark and think, I could have went today and it doesn't look good there. I could be one of the fans that's supporting the product, whatever. There's not that feeling anymore. And I feel like, especially during the summer, that house is going to be packed and loud, dude.
That's one thing about a million things, but one thing about New York in general and Mets fans is they hold each other accountable. The fans hold the team, the ownership accountable, and it's worked. This is the first time I've seen it in reverse. You talked about the 22 playoff series. There was nobody there. I mean, there were people there, but it wasn't raucous like a home playoff series should be. Nimmo called the fans out last year, like, "Hey, you guys wanted this? You want us to perform, and well, show us." And they showed out. So, I love it. Just New Yorkers, they hold themselves and each other accountable, and I love to see it all the way around.
It's really cool to see. I mean, I even felt it on social media because I went to Wrigley for the first time this weekend. It was like a life experience, seeing a legendary ballpark. We got to go out in the fields, do all this cool stuff around Chicago, and I'm posting about it, and they're going, "Why are you in Chicago? It's the Mets home opener. Like, you should be here." And I was like, "Fuck, man! Like, I should be there." Like,
that's what I thought. That's what I said.
And listen, it was an opportunity to go for free, get on the field, but I still had that level of guilt of like, I want to fucking be there. I wanted to be there. So I'm excited to get out there this week. But yeah, just a really nice start to the season for the Mets. Not 0-5, which is big. A stark improvement from last year. I'm hoping next time we hop on the mics to talk about the team, there's a lot more home runs to talk about, a lot more late game rallies, a lot more performance from the bottom half of the lineup. Maybe a 7-inning start in there. Let's get better,
Let's just enjoy it as it comes.
Let's just keep improving, I'm getting greedy. You can hear it in my voice.
Hey, not your words, not mine.
Yeah. And Jerry, just so you know, I would never reject you from my jury, by the way. I would never.
I know. I had a jury duty supposed to be this morning. I didn't get picked, and I'm a little offended. I'm gonna
Or is it
go,
like you're too tall? Or is it former athletes? Or
I
you're
don't know.
biased? I don't know what it was. Maybe it was something you
rejected. I
said.
got rejected.
Did you smell bad? Did you shower this morning?
No, that's not true.
Okay, I know that's not true. Guys, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a review on a podcast app that you're listening to. That helps us out a ton. And check out Field of Dreams Whiskey by clicking the link in our description, Field of Dreams Whiskey, or drinkfieldofdreams.com/Shay. And support our good friend Jerry Blevins with an awesome product. We will see you sometime next week. We'll see you when we see you.
See you when I see you.
Like that.
We love
I'll
you.
see you when
Let's
I
go
see you.
Mets.
LFGM, baby. We'll see you next time.